Hello. Alright, so we're looking at doing some VODs again. Not because, well, these aren't going to be PPC VODs. So funny story, the PPC Discord got deleted, so we can no longer do VODs from it because it is gone. I'm not sure how they're going to continue doing the games and all that, but basically I no longer have access to PPC VODs and content and replays, and I might, depending on if Kresnik posts demos, or if some players are nice and give me the replays and passwords, but don't count on it. So what we're doing instead is this is the PCML finals, which is essentially a community-run minor league.
All right, y'all, it's game time.
It's good players. I'm going to be competing in it next week if things go to plan. So we're going to be going over these teams. You probably recognize some people from these teams, like both streams. Amos was around. Like all of these players have been around for a long time, right? Like Bagel, Envy, and Amos, I think, are like have been along. Toa's been around. I think that's ancient, not actually cool, Matt. I that's got to be ancient. I think. And then Pyler's a bit newer, but point is, these are good teams. They would definitely beat some of the lower tier PPC teams. So, or at least contend with them. I wouldn't say always beat. I'm just gonna be calling them red and blue team though. So let's talk about comps. Um, red team. Red team has. I mean, it's Iceman's, right? Like these drafts are pretty much the same. The only big difference between the two is that you have two DDs here, and then you have a Zin here. So this Zin is going to be the big difference in how these teams play. You also got to look at the Grover. So Grover means that. I mean, it basically means that they can only push aggressively out this way. They can't really push out this way because if they leave like this line's more like this, then their Grover can't really help them anymore. Then they're pushing past their support, and it's not going to end well for them. So they can only really push out aggressively this way. So it'll be like the Victor and the Grover and the Atlas all sort of following this line and taking this LOS, which they can do. But it's a very passive comp, and it's like super standard, right? It's got good poke, it's got good barn control. The alts aren't great. Did the Zen go to guillotine? He did. Okay, so that's slightly better. Slightly better. But at the same time, like Turmoil is like none of these alts are gonna like win you a fight, right? Like Vickle, you're not gonna rely. Okay, guys, we're gonna use Vic ult and get a pick. Like you can't do that. Like your only ult that you can actually make a plan with is Zen ult, which like is fine, but that's only one ult on Ice Mines. So solid comp, really standard. They do really well at a poke fight and playing slow. They've got a decent amount of pick potential. Actually, did the term go crush? He didn't, so less pick potential, but I guess it makes sense in this matchup. And if you're red, you have a Ying. So Ying doesn't really have like you can push anywhere on the map and Ying will still be fine. And her ult is nutty, which is cool. Who's playing it? Bagel's playing it. You can also get dismounts for the gate, which is, I mean, more consistently than Grover, which is good. And then if you're red, so essentially you have a few options, right? You can put like Kin here and Tiger over here, and sort of like give up this area and just say like, all right, if they push through, then their Grover has to follow, and then we can sort of push like this, and then we got like this sort of rotation going, which is fine for both teams. Like that's not necessarily a bad thing for either. And I'd probably favor red team just because they have Ashel, and that's more likely to catch people out. So, yeah, so you have Kin here, you have Tiger in here. The other option is if you put Kin same place, except you put Tiger here, and you essentially mirror them, which I don't think plays to your comp strengths as much, right? Like you have the Ashe, you want the Ashe to be pushing this side, and then you want the Tiger like following close behind. And Inara can manage by herself. She can like if you give up this LOS, but you take this space, you're fine. You're fine with that. As long as you actually do take some space. So let's see. Does the supports get master writing? No. So that's the little pet peeve of mine, but it's fine. We'll see if anyone actually does get dismounts. So yeah, basically look to see if blue team can like set up their zone control, play passive, and take advantage of this area. Like if the fight happens at a poke fight, then it's sort of like a matter of time until blue team gets something going. And then red team look for them to push past that line. I also think like there's not like blue team doesn't win points super hard either. Like it's a Ying and Nara, Kinessa, and Tiger. Like you don't hard win it. So oh, it is slugshot. That's interesting. So no dismounts. Grover's playing in the bad position. I'm gonna nitpick on the Grover. Playing here, you cannot poke out their DPS. I mean, you can, but it's not great. You'd much rather be in these windows. Lets you get this LOS, and you also heal the same general area. So I like nitpicking on the supports because I play support. So then the Inara is playing a bit aggressively for herself. Oh, you can ignore. I should probably have that off. Don't mind me, just trying to schedule scrims. Glad it wasn't anything other than that. So right now, blue team sort of have their setup going, but Inara's played a bit too aggressively, so she's gonna need to get bailed out. And Ying gets rooted and dies for it. So this should be a one fight for blue. Term's playing a bit aggro, but you know that's fine. And that's a soft zone from blue, so ideally you'd like to see them hold this line again, right? Because they're gonna get a retouch, and this is how you take your best fight. So they're gonna have another fight. You don't want to be holding like here, right? Like you'd much rather have your Victor over here. Maybe here, much scarier for the Victor. So they're a bit far up right now. And see how they, like, look at their HP bars, right? Like they're taking so much poke. And like, yeah, you know, your Victor's in a rough spot because like, yeah, like you're up too far, and it's so much easier to make little micro mistakes when you're playing in a more aggressive spot. Also, something to note is that the Atlas went Deja Vu instead of Big Shield, which I think is an interesting call because Big Shield kind of just shuts down everything that their DPS want to do. Like it just lets your Grover peek for free, it lets your Victor peek for free. It's great. I really like Big Shield, but it's difficult to get value out of sometimes, and Deja Vu is a better like solo thing. So anyhow, you just lost your Victor, right? Like the amount of damage that your comp has just like went down by most of it. Then your Atlas gets caught out because he was up too far. Yeah, so that's just blue didn't soft zone. And like red was aggressive enough to realize that, and then they should win because they got some cap off the beginning. So that'll be a red mid fight. So this, yeah, Ying got rooted and picked, unlucky. And then blue didn't soft zone, red played aggressive enough. So now, you can send people around. Oh, I'm bumping into something. You can send people around to contest this area if you're red because you have Ying heals. But it's really difficult to do it with a Grover, right? Because these people over here don't really look where the Grover is, right? So they're not really going to get any help. Or the Grover's going to have to, like, the Grover can't help. So I really don't like this from blue. This isn't a very good call. What they should be doing, they should be taking advantage of the Grover, the fact that they have a term. They should just be running it down main. If you put up Atlas Shield, you let your Victor and Zen peek for free, and then Atlas Shield goes down, and you put up Siphon. Or maybe you do the opposite order. It doesn't even matter. And you just sort of try to run them over. Because that's what your comp does better than them. If you are red, you recognize, hey, they actually can't heal these people, so we can just take a slow fight, and eventually they'll die, right? Eventually they'll run out of healing and just fall over. Which is exactly what they're doing. What I don't like from blue is that they haven't, like, recognized that. Like, they're still trying to play this way. So, if you're the offlane, you say, wait, we're actually not going to get heals over here, we need to leave, or main needs to like push aggressively, right? So like you either need to do this so you can regroup over here, or you can try to like push aggressively so that if they push here, then you pinch them. Both options are fine, but you shouldn't even be in this position in the first place. Like, yeah, he falls over, but like of course he did, right? He didn't have heals. So good job by red. Good rollout. Unlucky Ashall. Did she bonk the tree? I think committing ults there is fine, right? Like, it lets you get to last for free. Victor gets nothing. Nice shield. Yingelt was a bit late, but like it's whatever. Now they're gonna try to run over, and now it's like, how well can blue set up for last? The first thing that I noticed that I really don't like, I mean, does Victor die here? I mean, like, okay, first of all, what's going on in this small room? But the first thing is that if you're playing this choke, your DD needs, your direct damage, your backline, your hit scan, whatever, your DD needs to be right there all the time. It is like your spawn is right there. You never die to anything. You just sit there, you free fire it, you're playing Kovacs. So having the Victor be up here is really weird. They didn't really reset very well. Like they're staggering. Term just died, so he's gonna have a rough contest. Zin just died. Or where's Zin? We have. Oh, hold up, my tab did. Okay, Zin just respawned. Because what I was gonna say is that the way this map, I'm not gonna try to line that up. The way that this usually works, and a common mistake that teams make, is that they'll have a tank pushing card here. So they'll have a tank. We're gonna write this down. So like they'd have an Nara here, and then they'd have, who's the other tank? You have Ash, and what that lets the other team do. So you're controlling this lane, and you're controlling this lane. It leaves this lane completely open. So what blue can do is they can sort of like push around. They don't have to drop, but they can just get this cross angle over here. And if you're in this room, you're gonna have a bad time because you're getting shot in the back, you're getting shot from the front. It's not great. So what you do instead is you don't send your Anar to point, you send your Ying to point. Yes, you send your Ying to point. Your Ying plays super scared, and she pushes it to like right here, right? Because at that point it's one fight, and if you win that one fight, cart goes in. So Ying's gonna be on point. You're gonna have Anar up here. You're gonna have Ash up here, and what that lets you do is you essentially play two offlines. You try to push both sides out at the same time, because this whole area is like really difficult to hold because there's nowhere to back up to. Like usually this is the corner where you hold, but then where do you back up to? You back up to here, you're dead. You back up to here, you're dead. There's no cover anywhere. So it's kind of a scuffed push from red. I'm not sure how Kin died, but like blue hasn't gotten set up yet. So if Kin didn't die, maybe the Ash ult wasn't used, maybe the Ying ult wasn't used. I mean, they were good ults, but like, I mean, maybe even if Inara ulted here, right? If Inara was on the high ground, if Inara had pushed out here with probably the Tony, the Tiger, this Atlas is probably dead, right? Like you can run at him, he has to rewind because there's two people running at him. Then you can ult him, and he dies. So a bit of a scuff push from red. Kind of a, I don't know how they got kills. Like they should be fine, right? Just because they have respawn proximity, they'll be fine. They have ults if they need them. Contest is a bit scuffed, but whatever. So if you're defending this, I don't think that was necessary. But whatever, he'll have it back, right? He's got, does he have morale? He doesn't, but it's early game. Wrong button. So what you want to do if you're blue, first of all, you don't want to push past this line, ever. Unless you're like pushing this out. Sorry, what I should say is that you don't want to push past like this line. Like it's weird. Like you play in like all of this, but don't go in this area. So already I don't like what they're doing. First of all, Victor needs to be up here, and you want your Zin over here. You want your Atlas, just so that you can get that wrap going, and you can punish the teams that don't put their support on point and don't play two off lanes here, and you can punish them for that mistake. Having the main tank over here, the term, that's fine. He can drop, he can leave, he can back up to this corner right here if he really needs to. It's not great. Like you could even play him over here if you wanted, and just say, all right, we're just gonna give. You put term here. You can say, all right, we're just gonna give up this area. That's not the best, but it's also like you don't have good options, right? Like your options are either give up that area or have your tank back up to a really weird spot. All right, so hopefully they get set up well. And if you're red, what do you want to commit here? I mean, you probably just look for an R ult earlier, right? Just try to get some value out of it before Rezo comes online. You probably say, hold up, there's like people here. We can run at them. The Victor's here. We can run at him if we want. Like, these people are way too far up. See, it's just using ults until... Using ults to the people who are... Like, you notice where I set up my camera? This is where the fight should be happening, right? But, like, why are they over there? I'm going to keep the camera here, because what's going to happen is that either they're going to die, and it's going to be because they're up too far, or they're going to get low and they're slowly going to start backing up. And the fight's going to happen here anyways, except they'll have wasted cooldowns and HP. Alternatively, they just get a random pick, because that happens sometimes. Here comes the ults. Why did he get stunned by? I guess they just... You know what it probably was? Probably the Victor getting a cross angle. I don't think they pushed both lanes at the same time. So it's like, yeah, blue didn't hold it correctly, and like, good general idea from red, but, you know, they didn't execute it well. It was like a good plan, good understanding of how that was supposed to work, though. Oh, they got OT. This shouldn't amount to anything, though. So yeah, red needed to push both lanes at the same time, if you're playing that aggressively. You didn't have OT either, right? You don't need something hard contesting. What is even going on right now? This is so scrappy. Like, look where the Grover is compared to, like, the tanks. I mean, it doesn't matter, right? But, like, at the same time, that was closer than it should have been. Toa kills free, alright. So, like, if you're set up in, like, the good defensive position, it's so much harder for that to happen. Anyhow, now that alts are online, well, they're not really online, but I mean, red's missing 2. That's fine. You're perfectly fine committing alts on a push on Ice Mines, early in the game at least. So red wants to make something happen. They still want to push past the line. So you're using Ashe ult for that. You have 2 huge ults for taking space, right? You have Ashe ult and you have Ying ult. So as long as you don't layer them, as long as you don't use them at the same time, then you should be fine. So like you'd have Ashe dash in really aggressively. Maybe if the Atlas positions like here, then you can just go right past him. I mean, probably get set back, but maybe if you get around the corner or put a shield behind you, I don't know, tank things. Point is, Ashe wants to be pushing, and then Ying wants to be ulting after that, or maybe before. It depends how you want to play it. I'd use Ying ult later in the fight because that's when it gets scrappier, and Ying ult's better in scrappy fights because it lets everything win their 1v1s. And then if your blue is just how do we respond to their ults, and hopefully we get another pick on the game because she doesn't have Rizal yet. What's Master Riding like? Master Riding, ooh, tanks have Master Riding. I'd say it favors blue just because like Grover can get the dismounts with deep roots, and then Atlas being there first is actually gonna stop a lot of what the Ashe wants to do. No dismounts from either team. That's gonna force setback. I'm kind of surprised he didn't. No, it's gonna force Oh my god, dude! There's recall, setback, rewind. I'm surprised he didn't. He didn't use his like, you know, opponent setback. I think it's setback and rewind, isn't it? I don't really know. I'm just gonna call him that. Like rewind is his personal and setback is for the opponent. So he didn't use setback on the Ashe, which I think was surprising because you just saw her mount up. If you setback her there, she doesn't have. Oh, she has Rizal too. Never mind. I was gonna say just like send her to spawn, but it is what it is. Really good Grover ult. Really good Grover ult. I don't like this. Like, look at like this is like a 10 level of aggression. This is like a 2, right? Like, if you're doing this play, Tony needs to be following. These 2 need to be at the very least pushing because these people are more worried about this. Like you're giving them 1 thing to worry about right now. But if everyone else was pushing, you give them 5 things to worry about. Maybe 4 because they have a Ying. Ying doesn't do anything. Point is, they're kind of leaving their Ashe out to dry here. Like this would be a really good time for a Ying ult, right? Keep the pressure up. Keep this map control going. Let your Tony push up really far. But Ashe did her job. They have a lot of map control. And Tony's rotated the barn for some reason. And now the line is drawn back here, right? Atlas can kind of just walk up for free. And the line set back up. So that's not great execution from red. There's a little duel going on. Tony gets ulted for. I mean, a bit of an overextension from the Zen. Kin gets a pick. I'm kind of surprised neither of the tanks were involved in that fighting. Like over in this area. Like both the tanks are like in this general area, I think, which, you know, it's not great. So if the res, it's a 3v4. They still have Atlas ult. They have an R ult though. Yeah, an R ult's big. Like they don't have damage, right? They have Term, Atlas, Grover. They can't kill anything. Kin's free.
Alright, they're getting hot, they're getting hot. Okay, real
I understand
talk?
using ults in
Stop
that situation though. Like it's sort of like, what's the risk? It's ice mints. Like if you use ults and it doesn't work, then like, who cares?
Flash that payload time.
Like you'll have them for the next mid. You'll have them once this round. It's fine. Grover should definitely be buying Morale, because she almost got 2 ults that mid, so if you had another one, maybe something changes. Playing better now, if you're blue, but it's also because they're slowly backing up, which isn't great. Like this would be a fine Grover ult. Just like reset, get your team back to full, take the fight at the choke, because the cart kind of just rolled past a pretty important corner for free. So they kind of just slowly backed up, not resetting properly. Seems to be a common issue with this team. So we'll see if they stagger, because Atlas is in a position to stagger. So they are going to chase him. I think, doesn't Atlas win that matchup? So, like, this is something that should, like, never happen. Like, why, like, the Ashe in particular, like, why not send the Ying there? Like, send anyone. Send the Tiger, send the Kin. Make it not a 1v1. Don't let your team take 1v1s. Because, like, sure, she can Ashe, maybe the Ashe outplays the Atlas and wins. But, like, you don't want to bet on winning because you're better than the other, you're better players than the other, because you have better individual players. You want to win the game because you're a better team, and that's a lot more consistent. Okay, so, like, this is weird, right? Like, okay, who crashed? Did Toa crash? I can't figure it out. Pauses are cool. Leaving the Atlas there is fine. I mean, I don't really like it. I'd just rather you go back and kill him. Just like send someone, like, if you send two people to go back and kill him, then blue team has to either like push you, and if they don't, you kill the Atlas and then you come back. Right? But and then you just hope that you give enough space to where your team doesn't get 4v3'd while you 2v1 the Atlas, and then you come back and it's a 5v4 because you just killed the Atlas in a 2v1. So cards break getting to last again, so we're just gonna... Oh, Kin died somewhere. That's pretty much gonna stop the push. That's a really unlucky timing with the Ashe ult. Grover died? Yeah, I don't know. You don't have... Atlas is still back there. So this, but again, like you see, the controller top right is really big. Cool, good ult, good ult. Gotta pick all you need. You have respawn proximity. You're fine. Good Victory. Is Victory? Hey, there we go. Good job. Good job. Okay. Term dying doesn't even matter. This is one fight. Like, people from red are still respawning. Term will be back. So now you get set up in the position you want to be. Oh no, the Victor push up. Why? You were in the good spot. Please go back. There you go. Good job. Okay. So now they're set up pretty much how I'd like them to be. I'd like for the Zen to be over here. That's it. There you go. That's good enough. Because if it's just the Atlas pushing around and getting the cross angle, you don't care as much. It's just an Atlas. He's not gonna. You'd rather have the Zen there because it's more damage. Like, Atlas can kill things, but, like, also, why would you know? I'd like having damage. So we're gonna Ying ult and push So you see how Nara's not doing anything? Like, what does Nara do? Like, she can push, right? She can make people contest, but not much more than that. Term drops, good play. Xin should probably rotate because he's by himself. Like, yeah, you don't want to rely on duels. Grover gets a pick. So I'm not really sure what they're trying to do. Like, I just hate the tank being on point. Like, you should only have the tank on point if you absolutely need to, like if it's OT or something. But Kin got a pick, and then because Xin died, I don't really know why Term died, to be completely honest with you. Would have been a good Grover ult. Victor dies because, like, your Grover is touching at this point because he lost Term. I mean, good aggression by Red, I guess. Only committing one ult, and they almost got it back. That's nice. And no ults really from Blue, aside from that one Xin ult, which is surprising, but also, like, it's Ice Mines, so now you have full comeback. You can just, like, use. I mean, you can't even use your ults and win, because your ults are garbage at, like, doing that. Your ults don't win fights. Your ults, like, prevent you from losing fights, but they don't, like. They're not. All right, we're gonna go in with Grover ult. I mean, you can't go. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like Ashe ult or Fury ult or something. You just say this is our go button. This is how we're gonna win the fight. Like, their ults are so much more difficult. Master Riding favors Red. Ying can't get dismount on Atlas or Grover still, but that's fine. Grover should be able to get dismounts, even with not as much Master Riding as she probably could have. Big dismounts on Term and Tiberius, but you can get dismounts as well. Like, imagine if neither team didn't get those dismounts. Like, the main tanks are even now, only because their supports got dismounts. If one support didn't get dismounts, then the other main tank would have a huge advantage. So, I don't know what that Grover ult was for. I mean, like, first of all, I really don't like that there's not a DPS following this Ashe here. Like, that's really weird to me. Like, why do you have a tank going by themselves? Like, sure, contesting Barn is cool and all, but you don't really need it if you get this angle. You just take more space. You give some space, but you also take some space. It's a nice trade. So Grover's ulted down. Used Vine. Should be fine. That's a nice shield. Term died because they got, like, chain CC'd pretty much. But the thing I don't like is that, like, there's 4 people in this area for Blue. Like, how did this happen? Right? It's not great. Ying's gonna have ult soon. Term ult's being used. Vic ult is up. Xin ult is up. Kin ult is up. Tony's gonna have his soonish. Oh, Tony's using his. Oh, he could have gone for the Victor so easily there and just, like, right-click spammed inside the tunnel and killed the Vic. Okay, so Anara dies, because I don't even know. Okay, honestly, that fight, like, took place in mid. Like, it took place right here. Like, well, that's such a weird spot for it to take place in. You probably... Can you hard zone? I don't think you can hard zone. I think they get through. So, back up, play off Ying ult, basically. Yeah, good call by the Ashe. They're all, I mean, their tanks are in weird spots, right? Like, you look at where they want to back up to, and Nara looks like she wants to back up to here, Ashe looks like she wants to back up to here, and that's sort of inverted from what you want. Your tanks kind of switch lanes for free. Xin gets touch. Oh, wait, did he not billow? He didn't get it off, I guess. Term has touch with no ult. Kin is pushing the Victor because both of Blue's tanks went for touch at the same time as his Xin did, so that wasn't communicated. The Ashe is in the back line. There's a Grover in your windows, and you're done for. Okay. So yeah, the pushes were a bit. The last defensives were a bit scrappy. Blue never really got a actual proper, like, fight outside of last, which isn't great. And And on the mids, red needed a DPS with their off tank, and I don't even know. Like the last fight was so weird because like it was pretty much decided on that Grover ult, right? Like what was that Grover ult for? Why did the Grover drop? Um, like I get you probably want to heal the term up a bit, but at that point it's you're committing your life for term, which is like, you know, like you can't end Grover ult in a risky position, right? So even if you're Grover ulting for a term, then you want to back up to Barn to your side of Barn, so you're out of LOS of their DPS and all their scary things. Anyhow, this was a best of 3 finals, so I can pull up the last game. Funny thing about this is that the replays are public, so I don't have to hide anything from you guys anymore. You guys can go watch these for yourself. They're also broadcasted. I forget when, but if you guys ever want to watch Kresnik cast them, I guess, or who does? I think it's Kresnik and Fawn who cast them. They're on the Paladins game channel sometimes. This is the first game. Ah, yes, I have the wrong ID. Okay, there's the ID for the first game if you want to watch it. So the next game is on Bright Marsh. Also, I figured I'd talk about this. The criteria for having a game be replayable like this, it either needs to be spectated by somebody, or it needs to be a Diamond plus rank game. And I think some custom games will get spectated. Are not spectated. Some custom games will be replayable. Not really sure what the criteria are for, but I know that some of them have been replayable without someone spectating. So, all right. So, basically, you you can't really replay casuals or anything, and you might be able to replay your ranked games depending on your rank. Anyhow, talking about comps, we have dive and we have triple DPS with main tank. So this is going to be red team playing off cap and blue team playing off killing the backline. So here, I'm going to speed up so I don't get unpaused on. I promise it's sped up. There we go. So red team's going to be they're always going to have an R on point because that's how you win. Blue team, actually we can draw these in colors. So red team's going to have an R on point because you win by playing off point, so you want something on point. And then you have like the rest, like you have your back line like in this area, right? And then the Andro can either go up to here or up to here, up on lip, because they have like, blue team has no poke, so you're pretty safe. And what blue team's going to try to do is they're going to try to like make this sort of rotation. You can either send people around and like pinch, or you can just like push really hard and just like if you ever force red to get into like this place, then like they're dead. And chances are you've killed something before then. So what red can do is they can either say, okay, they like if they see blue and they've gotten to like this part, they can go like, all right, we're just gonna leave. I should probably draw something red. They're just gonna leave, and then blue have to like make the rotation again, and then blue go, and then red goes, okay, we're gonna leave, and you get this like ping pong going back and forth, like they're each trying to out rotate each other, which is a good play. Usually you only see it like once one of those rotations, but in a perfect world you would see it multiple times. And the other option from blue is that instead of sending people there, you can send people like this and pinch. So if you're, this is like a really good rollout. Pinching like this with 2 offlanes is really strong because if red just sort of backs up, if they back up like this, which is like really the only way to go, Inara just dies because, I mean, Andrew will have left, and Inara dies because all of a sudden her team's playing all the way back here. Nothing's protecting her anymore. Nothing can heal her. Nothing can do damage to the thing shooting her. She just dies. She's completely by herself. So it forces Inara to back up really early. And at that point, like if you don't get any kills with this dive, which you definitely can, you have really good ults for a dive. You can sort of just back up and go for it again, and just bang your head into them until something dies, or you can just like hard commit and just int, um, which also works. So the different options that Red can go for, you can also send an R like over here and just say, all right, we're gonna stop you. We're gonna try to stop you there. Isn't great. Blue can sort of just ignore that and run past. Like they don't care about an R. They're just gonna leave. So they're just gonna go for the squishies instead, right? Which so like that's not a great option, but sometimes it works in different comps. You're like really if you're red, you're just trying to have better target focus than them. Use your ults well. Maybe have the Andro do some pinching or stop in rotations. Like how the Andrew plays is gonna be like super important to this game. So anyhow, let's see how it actually happens.
The battle has begun.
Oh wait, too fast. Too fast, too fast, too fast. Okay. Didn't hit the speed up button. So having the Cassie by herself right there is really dangerous. Because wrong button. Wrong button. We have one, and two. And as we all know, two bigger than one. So these people could just run at the Cassie and kill her, is what I'm trying to say. She's completely by herself. She can't get peeled for where she is. It's a rough time. Also, Inara's on docks. Like, Inara's like not on point, which is it is weird. So Andy's getting forced out by the ruckus. I mean, like they have poke, right? You can't just sit there forever, but like it's not the worst thing if you stand there for a while. So Andy's gonna have to leave and do something. Here's the dive. Just kidding. It's just an Ashe going in by herself. So like you can see the timing's off, right? Like we can literally like list what happened, right? Like Ashe dashed in. One. We're gonna do this with colors. These people pushed the Cassie. 2. Eevee blinked in. 3. And it happened in that order, right? You want all these things happening at the same time. Preferably the tanks go in a bit before their DPS, but generally all at the same time. So, and because of that, the Ashes died. Then the Cassie gets punished for being by herself, like I said earlier. Inara does a good rotation by not letting the fight happen around her. Like, you got 45%. If you win this fight, you cap anyways. And you might as well help win the fight, right? Rather than watch your team lose. You gotta be involved. Eevee's gonna lose the 1v4 because it's a 1v4. Ashe lost the 1v4 because it's a 1v4. Ruckus and Xin lose the 2v4. Good job by Corvus getting 27%. That actually means that if they win another fight, then they can hard zone. So that's a really good small thing. But overall, it's just the timing from Blue was off. It was really like those individual things. They were good, right? Like all those things together were good, but they just happened at the wrong times. Now, if you're red, you're trying to hard zone. That's fine. You just need to stop Eevee. Or is it, yeah, they have so many touches. I don't know how I think about that. How I feel about the soft zone or the hard zone call. It does mean that Blue's not doing what they want to be doing, right? Like they're not really diving, but a scrappy fight does certainly favor them. Dom was getting caught out. Like they all just fell over because they were split, right? They didn't have their setup going. Like if they're ever split like that, then Blue's comp is a better like TDM comp, if that's the way to think about it. Here's where that 27% from earlier is gonna matter. Because like imagine if they were at 50, then like maybe the Andro can touch, but because of that cap earlier, he can't. Good ult, but I mean even if he touches, he dies. The Victor's died. Like it was a good job capping. So the weakness with dive comps, Bright Marsh is a really good map for dive comps, but the issue is that Bright Marsh is not just the point. There's this entire last choke, and this part just sucks for dive comps because you just lose a poke fight and there's like this entire high ground that you can't get up onto, so you can't dive it. It's really rough. So you look for red to definitely get the hold there. What I don't like that red is doing is that there's 3 chokes on this. There's 2 chokes. It's like this line-ish, and then there's this line. And they just said, nah, we're not gonna think about this. We're just gonna hold the last choke and not try to get 2 fights. If you push out here, right, if you just like, all right, we're gonna go in here, we're gonna like send one person around, we're just gonna go. You probably lose. Like your comp's not very good at pushing. But so what? Like, what does losing a fight actually do for you? Oh my. Okay, hold up. I just noticed something that I'm going to talk about later. But if you do this, you fight here, right? You fight at this line right here. You lose. Kurt gets to here, and now you've respawned, and you hold at this choke, right? You just took like 30 seconds off the clock. It's and what if you win? What if you win the fight? Then you can full hold. You can like go to their base, right? You can just go, hey, to their spawn, and then you wasted like a minute or a minute and 30 seconds, and they only have 30 seconds to break the hardest choke in the map for their comp, instead of giving them an entire 2 minutes to do this. So not a very good job from Red. Like this, they also did this on Ice Mines, right? They did this on Ice Mines, where they just sort of they lost the mid, and they're like, all right, guess we're fighting at the last choke now. So that's definitely like the major thing I'd be looking. Like if I was coaching this team, if I was, I'd be saying, all right, this is like the main mistake the main macro team wide mistake that they're making. Second thing I want to point out is that I just noticed that that's no Will BB. I what? I mean, I guess, but like, that's interesting. I don't know how I feel about it, but like, I feel like it's not good. I feel like it's not good for a reason, right? Like, you lose. First of all, you lose some sustain. You lose a lot of safety. You turn into like a buck sort of thing, where like you can, like, you have to hard commit. I don't know. It's weird. I know Toa likes it. I remember hearing a while ago that he liked it, but like I didn't. That's weird. Anyhow, you guys have the match ID. You can spectate him if you want. Anyhow, okay. So Red just lost this defense. Because not they didn't lose it. Cassie just dropped. So Cassie dies because she dropped. All of a sudden, she doesn't have this high ground to hide behind. Like this is the line, right? If you're squishies on Red team, you do not drop past this line, because all of a sudden Blue team goes, aha, we can dive that, and then you die because you're just fighting on like low ground, like you die. They dive you, you die. So then you lose your damage. All of a sudden, it doesn't even matter that their comp sucks at this point because you can't kill anything. You just lost your Cassie. I mean, you still have Victor, right? It's not for sure one, but Cassie dropping just made this fight unnecessarily like 20 times harder. I didn't even see how Ash died, to be honest. It's like, Cassie? Honestly, if you're Cassie right now, go jump off the map immediately. Okay, I thought she was going to for a second. But you respawn on high ground, you still got, like, that's, solid fight. Like, that's the most important difference between scrims and tournament games and ranked, right? Like, you can choose, this is where the fights are happening. That's, like, the single biggest difference between scrims and ranks is that there are proper fights and not just one long game. There's just definitive fights. And Red team kind of isn't doing that. Good stun. Nice stun. Don't know if that's needed. You just, but anyhow, if you're red or if you're blue, you don't have an option to go for DPS, so you're just trying to burn this an hour. Just try to like take angles and all that fun stuff. What are these teams throwing ults at us for? Like, if you're the Ashe, like this fight isn't winnable. If you're the Andrew, this fight isn't losable. There are no reason for these ults to be used. Nara dies. Okay, that's scary, actually. Like, they can't touch, right? It doesn't matter that you can't contest, because they can't contest either. Because you have the firing squad on high ground. And Nara's back. Cassie hasn't dropped, so now we've got 2 DDs on high. This is great. I don't like that Red are fighting here, because it means Blue can shoot these people for free, and these people cannot shoot Blue team. So this is essentially like a 4v2 poke fight, which you don't want to take. You'd rather have a fight with your entire team behind you. Anyhow, early game Domba and Nara is just gonna be like an absolute pain to break. So they're kind of trying to catch at the Andrew, which they do. Yes. Does Eevee trade for it? Not yet. Okay, they get the trade. So Eevee looked like he was on a different page than the rest of his team. He sort of was going for the Andrew, and meanwhile everyone else was trying to burn a Nara. So I don't know if he was just trying to buy time, or maybe there's a miscommunication, or maybe he's just like, hey, I can kill this Andrew and get away with it. But sake there. Again, you see how hard this is for Red to lose? Like, they're free. They're so free. It's another reason to not commit ults if you're blue, right? Like, this fight is so hard to win. It's a good reason to not commit ults if you're red, because it's so hard to lose. That's actually a really nice boop, but no one touches, because it's just that you have free firing Victor and Cassie, right? Like, what are you gonna do? I'm surprised Anara has so much damage. But yeah, Victor's just gonna carry that, because of course he's gonna carry that. Anyhow, next fight. So we have ults that definitely favors blue. We don't have Ash ult, which is the big one, but I mean, you can do different things. Like you can like Corvus ult this area, and then it's really rough for them to back up, and a whole bunch of stuff. But overall, same thing. It's just now red has some better tools to defend themselves with, and blue have some better tools to attack with. Otherwise, it's the exact same fight, right? Early Cassie ult is actually big. They're on cap. Here comes the dive. Happening at generally the same time. Anara's backed up. Victor gets caught out. Corvus is capping. And they just completely ran them over without even having to use ults. Oh my god. Oh, Domagos gets wasted, but they trade for one. If you get stagger kills, you can hard zone. Like, okay, so like if you're red, right, you see that happen. First of all, try your best to get dismounts, because what they did, they let the Ashe and the Ruckus like mount up to like this area. So like the fight took place over here, right? So if you can stop them like dismounting here, all of a sudden they have to like walk here. That gives you time. Maybe if they use dashes, then that's cooldowns that they don't have for the dive. So you definitely have like somebody peeking. Like there's a nice little angle that goes like this. Like I didn't draw a straight line, but that is an LOS. It ends, starts, so have someone watching that so you can get dismounts. Like Victor would be good for that. You can have Cassie watch for dismounts. Not having somebody watch docks this area, which is pretty bad. Not doing the rotation here, like it's a single Eevee. You can 4v1 an Eevee. So you can't just you can't just sit there and die, right? Like that's sort of what happened. You have to be proactive with this. This fight's won at this point. Like red don't have a touch. Even if they do get a touch, they don't have a good touch, and they just stagger into a better TDM comp. This is what blue team does. Like, not blue team. Like this is what this team does. Like they just played this sort of like aggro dive stuff all over and over. Ashe just decided she wants to donate her KDA to the Salvation Army. So, diving when you're not at a choke is not a good idea, because you're using things to do nothing basically. Like just wait for the cart to push for free. You're using cooldowns to catch out this Andy. Andy's by himself, and he doesn't. He tries to take like the 1v too many people and dies for it. Corvus gets picked though, so that's fine. Huge Eevee ult, just kidding. Trades that sort of favors. I'd say it favors blue, but they lost their healer. No, Sanara kind of like wasn't on point during all that. That was weird. Like you lose Andy there. I don't know. That's a weird fight. But they don't have 2 minutes to break glass now, so that's good. So same thing, like this, I could probably speed this up honestly, but I won't in case I miss anything. If you're blue, you have options this time. Like you have a minute. You have time to rebuild your ults. So if you wanted to, you could Ashe out the high ground, and then the other 4 people look at the Inara, because then the DPS can't really help like stop you from killing the Inara. The Inara has to either back way up or die or take a lot of HP, use a lot of cooldowns. So you definitely look to make a playoff Ash ult if you really wanted to try to get kills. You could send the Eevee and Xin up there. Like, your entire team can actually get to high ground now that I'm looking at it. You can actually dive these people. So, like, there's actually a real threat for this. Hold up. It's just now you have to cross a lot more space to do it, right? A lot more open ground. So it has to be a bit cleaner from blue. If that's the decision they end up going with. Good call out. The Andy finishes off low Corvus. And it's a reset. They better not push this. No one drop. No one drop, please. Nice. Okay. So they are still holding up the best choke, knowing that it's one fight. They want to take the most optimal fight necessary. Andrew gets a pick. I will say, he got the kill. Not the best use of cooldowns from the Andy. Dashing out from the air like that. Not good. I don't really remember why. I just remember my coach yelling at my own Andrew for doing that in a VOD review once. So don't do that because reasons. I mean, look, he's taking damage, I guess, and he doesn't have cooldowns for the fight coming up. So that's something, I guess. Yeah, imagine if you had dashes. It's becoming a bit more obvious to me why you don't do that. Inara, again, not forcing the enemy team to play in her DPS as LS. Oh, she has no cooldown, she's just dead. But even then, right, like, the Zing gets picked because, I mean, he messed up, but, like, also, it's really hard to not mess up. And also, like, you still have the Victor and Cassie free for, and it's gonna be difficult to contest. Ruckus setting up to blow up the Inara, so you're probably gonna have to use ults from red at this point just to guarantee it, so you either look for a Domba ult or Inara ult. Because support ults are really good for defending. Victor gets picked, please touch, thank you. Victor touches for just long enough. Inara's just playing in the corner. Eevee's kind of free in the back line, but like... Oh my god, they didn't use ults, and no, 2 people are touching. Okay, they used ults. Just kidding, we're good. Holy, that was much closer than it needed to be. And if the Corvus didn't get picked, Blue have a decent chance of like pushing that in. But also, if you're Blue, you're not disappointed with that. You traded Ruckus ult for Domba ult. That is really good for you. Because Domba ult is like, it sucks, right? Like, if you're diving onto an area, the last thing you want to do is get feared and walk straight and not use cooldown. And like, it's no bueno, right? Domba ult is really good at peeling. So, not having that resource up is pretty big. Overall, I just want to see an adaptation from Red. Like, I don't care what you do. I just want to see something change. I want to see this rollout changed. I want to see you guys not... I do not want to see a replay of the last round because it is 100% what Blue's going to do. Unless they want to try sending somebody around docks. That's like the only other option they could do. So the sending Cassie bar, it's like the first round. This is the first round rollout from... This is literally it's the first round all over again. Like, you can send the Andy this way, right? And just like have him like float above. And it's really difficult for the Eevee to do too much about that. Like, if he's floating like that, it's difficult to hit shots. The Andy, you know, it's free, can see like over the walls, so the Eevee has to like play really well around corners. The Eevee probably has to leave. You can have the Domba pocket the Andrew always does that, so it's really difficult for him to lose that 1v1. And then you rotate. Like, you have options here. You have options if you're red. Good Cassiel though. Blue's setting up. Here it comes. Much better timing on that. Okay, cool. So if you're red, immediately as soon as all these ults pop, you're calling we just lost. We just lost this fight. We didn't lose the mid though. They don't have any cap time. Everyone just die. Just die as soon as you can. Let Inara cap. Let Inara die. And like that's it. We get another fight, right? We have ults. I think it was a good play by the Inara to try to win the initial fight, but overall, I mean, it's not like Red could have done anything after those ults got used. Like, they were gonna be resetting either way. But I mean, Blue sort of held them out with that, but that was the general idea that I think they should have gone for. So if you're Blue, I don't like the call to hard zone. Like, you only had like 10% cap maybe ish when you won the fight. So like, they're definitely gonna get a retake. Their comp kind of sucks at retaking, but also you don't have any comeback or anything. They're going to be able to retake unless you can catch something out. So like, Red has to be clean. They can't play 2 split. They have to force out a lane. And they just have to, like, you know, say, okay, this Ruckus is too far by himself. Let's go kill the Ruckus or force the Ruckus out. Here comes a dive. which they lose because Corvus isn't in it, but like also, I mean, Zin isn't it. Like it's fine to go for a dive. I guess it makes some sense with this comp. Like it was a good call, and they were much more coordinated. But also, it's a lot harder to pull off.
Alright, they're getting hot. They're getting hot.
Anara dies on touch. August dies. It's a 3v2. Oh, Andrew, why'd you go when you had reinforcements coming? Those alts. Eevee has alt, quote unquote. Then Cassie just falls over and. Why did Cassie there? Okay, and Cassie just messed up. Vic got ulted on Luckers. Wow, I sure would have liked to have that for the bit. I mean, yeah, maybe if you use an R ult instead of Dombo ult on the defense, I think Dombo ult's better for the mid.
Quit whining and get on the payload. Slash that payload.
They did a better job of peeling for the dive when it was out in the open though, so maybe try that. Maybe just set it for a retake better. Retake through smaller areas, so like more difficult for them to dive. Dombo gets caught out, Rox gets caught out. They don't really have any space. Like a good dive comp played well is so hard to deal with. Like Red don't really have the comp to deal with it super well. I mean they do, actually they do. They have tools. They're not using them very well. They're not taking any space anywhere. Intense 1v1 going over in the spot where 1v1 should never really be happening. Alright, same thing. Okay, Ashe is taking high ground. Is her team with her? Sort of. And is it RF feeding again for no reason when like she just pushed up way too far? Yes.
They're getting hot. They're getting hot.
And the Ashe catches out the Andrew somehow. Now if you're your ults are respawning. Probably have Cassie ult and then touch. Try to like juke with the movement speed. Have Victor touch and just try to like run away. Like you want a DPS touching so that like the Domba can pocket them. Or maybe Yanara doesn't have touch. Does she have touch? Okay, Yanara has touch. But your Victor also went for touch. We need to be communicating these things. And if somebody calls it, you need to trust that call. If they call, I have touch, don't worry about it, and then they don't, that is on them. You do not want to make it two mistakes by feeding. But they're also slamming their ult buttons, putting the full brakes on this thing. So that's good by Red. Their ult's just not getting value. Baron Ruckus is what the call that we're going for. Cool, they Baron Ruckus. Who has next touch? Nobody has next touch. Unlockers. Red just needed to like that was a dive comp, and they just sat there and died to the dive comp. So, like you needed to take space somewhere. Maybe draft could have been a bit better. I wasn't there, but they didn't have the best tools. Like Victor into dive sucks. It was only he only did well in that game because like that last choke was just such a pain for dive to deal with. But yeah, I don't really know why Victor was picked. Like I don't really know. Like Victor, like I can't imagine a scenario. First of all, this team has been playing dive for weeks now, so picking Victor at all into them is a bit weird. Second of all, I can't think of when you would pick a Victor in draft. Like when that would happen before you realized, hey, wait, they're taking like some really divey tanks and a lot of like two flanks, and maybe they're playing dive. Right? Like you know, what's your plan? Like if you're running cardio Victor, then you know maybe sort of the dive a bit better. Just kidding, don't run cardio Victor, but actually run cardio Victor. It's really fun. But the point is, like, the Victor pick was like a bit weird to me. Like, I'm not talking about draft because I don't have them, and like, I'm not the best at drafting, so I'm not gonna comment on it too much. Like, I know the basics, right? But I'm not like, I don't have a ginormous brain that I'm gonna like identify. Yes, the first pick Ashe clearly won. Like, I don't know. So, but the Victor pick just seems weird to me. Like, it stands out. So that's a bit strange. Anyhow, that was 2 wins and a best of 3. So. What's their team name? Speaker Lobster is the team name. They win against. Hold up, what's the other team's name? What's the other team's name? Against Team TTV. Yeah, this is the whole bunch of streamers there. Well, I mean, I got I Dodge Bullets. I think Lovely streams, Birdsy streams. I think Amos streams sometimes. I don't know about Envy. At least four of them stream. Anyhow, um, hope you guys enjoyed. It was a fun PCML game. Sad that we can't get PPC, but like PCML should be good. There's a lot more. There's gonna be a lot more mistakes, so the games are gonna be more interesting, more stuff to point out. But I also want to like add a disclaimer that like these are the people that I will be competing against, and I'm not just gonna like show up and stomp everyone. So like I don't want to make it seem like I'm like yes I am this all knowing god at the game that is just gonna show up next week and stomp everyone. Because like no, these are the teams that I'm gonna compete against and have close games against and lose to and beat, and like it's gonna be it's gonna be fun. Like I don't want to like make it seem like I have an ego, just like voting everyone's games. So like I also don't want to say that I'm perfect because it's probably obvious and you guys probably don't want to hear this, but I just want to make sure that's clear. Anyhow, I hope you guys enjoyed watching. I'll see you next time.